Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching.
Word is your swarm of nitpicks was neutralized. The Kraeth diplomat let the sentence hang in the air, his slug-like body rippling with amusement. Rather spectacularly, I hear. Sonic resonance? From a human? Nobody spoke. Inside Krakor's floating citadel, orbiting a molten moon deep within his territory, the hall glowed with volcanic light. Obsidian tables stretched beneath crystal chandeliers forged from cooled magma, while servants moved through the gathering like shadows. The room held some of the most dangerous beings in 5 sectors, and every one of them was waiting to see how almighty Krakor would react. Krakor stood at the center of it all, claws folded behind his back, tail twitching in a slow, deliberate rhythm. The air was thick with heat, pride, and the scent of blood in the water. The diplomat's smile widened. The insult had been carefully disguised. It was still an insult. Almighty Krakor didn't blink. The nitpicks can be remade. I created them once. I'll do it again. Another alien chuckled. Yes, but it appears the humans are learning. Your swarm didn't make a dent. That was enough. Krakor raised a single talon and beckoned. A drone glided from the shadows, skeletal, precise, its optics glowing blue. Find me a genome specialist, someone cleared to manipulate hybrid toxins and psychoreactive proteins. Tell them they have 2 hours to modify the nitpicks, adapt the venom to the human genome. I want neural damage, hallucinations, madness before death. He paused. 2 hours. No more. The drone beeped. Confirmed. It vanished into the dark. Almighty Krakor finally turned toward his guests, voice like velvet over steel. The nitpicks failed because they killed too quickly. This time, they will unmake the mind first. I want their venom restructured, something that corrupts neurons. A beat. Then their flesh can melt. One of the guests shifted uncomfortably. Another smiled. The 2-hour timer began. The party continued. Food, alcohol, and women, the right combination to inebriate the senses of the foolish. Krakor knew that. He'd perfected it. The servers kept the goblets full, never letting a glass touch the table empty. The food was rich, spiced, and addictive, tailored to each species. And when the music started, the dancers entered. Dozens of them. Female specimens from conquered worlds, trained to obey, conditioned to please. They moved through the hall with precision, wrapping around guests like living perfume. Only the best for his allies. And while they laughed, fed, drank, and groped, almighty Krakor watched. He sat at the head of the long stone table, untouched wine in his goblet, expression unreadable. He did not eat. He did not drink. He didn't glance at the dancers. He observed. Who drank the fastest? Who stared the longest? Who reached for power through indulgence instead of strategy? He wasn't here to celebrate. He was here to catalog weakness. And the moment the drone returned, the room fell silent. Conversations died. Laughter choked off. Even the dancers froze mid-motion, sensing the shift in atmosphere. The drone hovered into the center of the hall, then projected the image. A hunched, cybernetically wired Chictari biologist with half a face of plated steel and teeth too human. The prototype is ready. Modified biomech swarm. The neurotoxin's been engineered to target human genomes. Test results show rapid psychological decay, hallucinations, paranoia, motor dysfunction. Within minutes, internal liquefaction follows, but at a slower rate. As requested, a slow, conscious death. Krakor's eyes gleamed. And resistance? Minimal. Humans are stubborn, but fragile. Short lifespans, even shorter minds. The scientist paused, uneasy. However, intercepted data from the glacial garden reveals an anomaly. Life extension. A bacteria strain feeding off the green star's spectrum. Possibly regenerative. Krakor's eyes narrowed. Explain. It's early, but the strain appears to slow tissue decay. Some organisms in the garden are surviving far beyond projected limits. Thriving, even, under conditions that should be lethal. You're saying the cold no longer kills? I'm saying something is adapting. Krakor's voice dropped to a growl. Reverse engineer it. Make it do the opposite. You wish to shorten the human lifespan further? I wish to weaponize it. U.E.V. Kraken, briefing chamber 09. The room was cold by human standards, intentionally. Dr. Lyra Vone preferred it that way. Said it helped the cultures think. No one was brave enough to ask if she meant bacterial or social. She sat perfectly still in her high-backed chair, hands folded over her knees, eyes half closed, like she was trying to remember the dream she just woke from. General Edward Montgomery, the Kraken, arms behind his back, watched her like she was a specimen under glass. Dr. Vone, he said slowly. You're aware this mission is highly classified? Yes, she said softly. Classified, compartmentalized, and critically time-sensitive. You wouldn't have summoned me otherwise? She blinked slowly. Also, the spores are mutating. This is the exact window to harvest clean data. The Kraken didn't flinch, but his eyes flicked toward the security feed showing Dante pacing outside the door. Dr. Vone continued, almost dreamily. The glacial garden isn't just a prison. It's a petri dish. Cold, hostile, unexamined. A frozen library. And someone is burning the books. Montgomery raised an eyebrow. You've read the reports, then. I wrote 5 of them. The door slid open. Dante stepped in, helmet under one arm, armored and slightly annoyed. Are we saving the galaxy yet? Or still whispering about bacteria? Charming, Montgomery muttered. Shakira's voice crackled in Dante's neural implant. Commander, apologies for the interruption. I'm patched in. Dr. Vone's eyes lit up. A neural AI interface? How fascinating. May I see the cranial mount? No, Dante said. You remind me of Trelawney, Shakira said flatly. Dr. Vone blinked. That's not my name. I'm Lyra Vone. Who is? Trelawney. A teacher. Divination. Very ancient school. You'd have liked her. Lyra Vone tilted her head, curious. Did she work with viral sequencing? No, Shakira said. She predicted the future while wearing 13 scarves. Oh, pity. I prefer microscopes. We're done with introductions, Montgomery interrupted. Here's the problem. The intel we pulled from Vrelk wasn't just a curiosity. That regenerative strain under the glacial garden? It's real. And now we have reason to believe the Krakor Dominion is already moving on it. Their science teams are already enhancing their biomech swarms, adapting venom for human neural systems, hallucinations, madness, slow death. He turned toward the projected map of the garden's surface. If they get their claws on this regenerative strain, Dr. Vone nodded. They'll flip it, turn regeneration into accelerated decay. Exactly. He looked to Dante. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about getting there first. The Kraken turned to the console. Now for logistics. A projection bloomed in midair, showing the icy wasteland of the glacial garden, a green star pulsing low in the background. Krakor keeps orbital watch on the garden, he said. Satellites, heat mapping, AI flyovers. Nothing gets in without getting logged. Dante folded his arms. So, what's the trick? The Kraken pointed to a dim flicker on the map. This old thing. Dead recon satellite. Dark for 10 cycles. We'll fake a reactivation, then stage a crash. Cover story, Shakira said approvingly. Classic. Montgomery continued. We crash the satellite. Blame it on the Garden's solar interference. The Dominion will assume it's a tech failure. During the retrieval window, we send in the team. That's Shakira and me? Dante asked. Not just you, Kraken said. Dr. Vone insisted on going herself. Dr. Vone beamed. Of course. The ice speaks differently to a scientist. Also, I have to touch the bacteria. Dante sighed. Weirdly, that makes sense. Shakira said dryly, compared to defeating a swarm with your voice, this is practically routine. Dr. Vone stepped forward and tapped the holomap. The solar flares from the green star are erratic. They disrupt navigation, screw with long-range scans, and create EM storms across the southern pole. She looked up, eyes wide with excitement. I call it Frozen Ghost Protocol. Shakira snorted. You named it? I name all my disasters in advance. Dante sighed. We drop through the storm, under cover of static, during the false retrieval op. And land undetected, Vone nodded. In theory. In theory, Dante repeated. Great. Montgomery zoomed in on the outpost logs. That's because we have one more problem. The only person on the surface who might have collected samples is Vrelk. Dante raised a brow. The bug? The loyal one, Shakira added. The one who spared you. Dr. Vone whispered. Oh, the Exile. I read about him. He's dying. Dante looked up sharply. His species doesn't handle the cold, Montgomery explained. But he's fading faster than most, probably because of proximity to the anomaly. Maybe that's why he sent us the data, Shakira said. The Kraken nodded. If he has a pure sample, we need it. Find him. Dante sighed. So, drop in, avoid detection, find the bug, grab the goo, escape before Krakor notices we ever landed. And try not to get melted by madness venom while you're at it, Shakira added. Dr. Vone looked delighted. Isn't this wonderful? Dante stared at her. You really are Trelawney. Reclaimed satellite. Station Echo. Outer orbit. Glacial Garden. The Gravedigger 2 hovered alongside the burned-out husk of an orbital satellite. Its outer plating torn open. Its comms gutted. It had been dead for 10 cycles. Today, it came alive again. Dante stood in the docking corridor of his ship, helmet under his arm, visor fogged slightly from the cold, seeping through the reinforced hull. Shakira's voice filled the silence. Link secure. Satellite ID transmitting false telemetry. Krakor's systems will see junk data for the next 20 minutes. He glanced at the cracked walls of Station Echo through the airlock window. It looks worse in person. So do you, Shakira replied sweetly. Don't forget the timer. The solar interference from the green star gives us exactly one blackout window, 20 minutes before the Dominion surveillance grid resets. Copy that, Dante muttered. Drop us low. Inside the cockpit, Dr. Lyra Vone adjusted the cryo-stabilizer unit strapped to her back. She wasn't wearing body armor, only a modified vacuum suit lined with sensors and hardened gloves. Her hair was pulled into a crooked bun. She was smiling. I've always wanted to touch a living cryogenic bacterium. I wrote a poem about it once. Did it rhyme? Dante asked. Everything rhymes if you're lonely enough. He blinked. Fair. The descent pod rattled to life. Beneath them, the glacial garden waited, a white, bladed tomb under a sick green sky. Contact in 40 seconds, Shakira said. Outpost coordinates are narrow, no active beacon, but based on seismic log echoes, the structure is still standing. You're sure Vrelk's in there? He logged a transmission 3 days ago, faint, encrypted. Coordinates match the relay tower in the southern pole sector. He's in the outpost, or what's left of it. Dante checked his sidearm. Illegal, unregistered, and hidden behind 3 layers of alloy. Let's bring our favorite Exile home. Glacial Garden. Surface drop. They hit hard. Snow blasted up in all directions, the drop pod crunching through layers of frost and crystallized ash. The green sun above blinked behind a thick curtain of solar haze. Dante shoved open the hatch. Cold slammed into him like a wall of knives. Eyes up, he muttered, stepping onto the snow. You feel that? Dr. Vone stepped out behind him, visor lighting the dark ice. The bacteria is alive. It's everywhere. The snow is humming. Less humming, more walking. They moved quickly across the cracked surface. The outpost tower was visible now, skeletal, leaning slightly, windows dark, half buried in snowdrift. One side had collapsed entirely. Dante's boots crunched against brittle ice as they reached the door. It was already open. Inside the outpost, the corridor smelled like freeze-dried metal and old blood. Flickering panels cast stuttering light across the walls. Bundled cables dangled from the ceiling like torn arteries. In the corner, an emergency beacon flashed red, forgotten. Then, a voice. Weak. Repeating. Cycle log 44.002. Anomaly shift Delta 3. Anomaly shift Delta 3. They turned the corner into what had once been a command chamber. Now, no more than frozen ruin. Vrelk sat slumped at a console, legs folded beneath him, his breathing shallow. His mandibles twitched every few seconds. His chitin had lost its shine. Cracks lined his plating. Frost had formed across one side of his face. But he was alive. He looked up and saw Dante. His eyes flickered with recognition. A flash of something. Not fear. Not even surprise. Relief. Stryx, he rasped. You came back. Dante stepped forward. You didn't kill me. This makes us friends. Vrelk tried to chuckle, but it came out as a wheeze. Tell the stars, I didn't betray them. Then his body buckled forward. Dr. Vone was already moving. His core temperature's collapsing, heart rate erratic, neural degradation. He's minutes from permanent damage. Can you stabilize him? No, not here. She yanked the cryo-stabilizer off her back and locked it to Vrelk's chest. Lights flickered as cold vapor hissed into the unit. I can induce a coma, preserve brain function, stop cell death. Do it. She inserted the compound. Monitors beeped. Coma initiated. Life signs dropping, stabilizing. Neural map preserved. Vrelk's breathing slowed. His expression, just before unconsciousness, was calm. She waited until the final vitals leveled. Then she moved through the ruined lab like she'd lived there. He kept it hidden, she muttered. He knew they were listening. Behind a fallen bulkhead, she pried open a cryo box. Inside, a single glass vial, faintly glowing, swimming with the regenerative strain. Her eyes widened. It's perfect. Then bag it. We're out of time. They sprinted across the snow. Solar flares danced overhead like veins of light cracking the sky open. The outpost behind them was swallowed by wind. Shakira's voice screamed through the comms. 3 minutes till the blackout ends. If you're not in orbit by then, we're moving! They reached the pod and shoved Vrelk's cryo unit inside. The door slammed shut. The pod latched into the Gravedigger 2's belly with a hydraulic roar. Heat surged through the corridors as the engines fired just beneath radar signature. Shakira came online in full. Surveillance grid waking up in 5 seconds. Are we clear? Of course. I never doubted us, she replied. Hours later, human outpost, temporary medbay. Vrelk floated in the suspension pod. Silent. Stable. Dr. Vone sat at a nearby console, typing so fast her fingers were blurred. He recorded everything, she whispered. Seismic logs, protein breakdowns, mutation accelerants. This isn't just science. This is memory. Dante opened a secured comm. Stryx to command. Mission successful. Vrelk's in cryo. We've got the sample. Waiting for next. The response interrupted him. A new voice. This is Officer Eric Larson. Commander Montgomery is unavailable. Unavailable? Dante asked. Larson's voice dropped. He left 3 days ago, investigating Colony 8723. 3 million residents. Gone in less than 7 minutes. We have no contact. No trace. Silence. Shakira said what Dante didn't. We're not done. Dante turned toward Vrelk's chamber, eyes narrowing. Not even close. Colony 8723, 2 days after the massacre. The U.E.V. Kraken descended through choking gray skies, its engines silent beneath layers of ash and cold static. There was no welcome, no signal beacon. The colony's transponders were melted into slag, its emergency channels long dead. General Montgomery stepped out alone, flanked only by 2 silent operatives and a forensics team. He wore full tactical gear, no medals, no markings, only a reinforced combat suit stained by prior missions. His visor swept across the wasteland in silence. Colony 8723 was gone. Ash covered everything. Not dust, not debris, but the compacted remnants of life. The outlines of once bustling buildings were now skeletal ruins. Burned-out vehicles littered the roadways, twisted and scorched. A child's toy, half melted, half fused to the pavement, lay beneath his boots. The team moved methodically, scanning collapsed structures and what remained of the settlement's infrastructure. They passed walls still smoldering at the base, their surface fused with personal belongings, wedding bands embedded in metal, clothes half incinerated mid-motion. A council-appointed scientist approached nervously, tablet in hand, voice low and cracking. Sir, we have preliminary data. The Kraken turned to face him. The man swallowed hard. Tissue scans from recovered bodies show neural collapse. No puncture wounds, no burns. But inside? Liquefaction. Targeted dissolution of the spinal column and brainstem. These people were alive. For minutes. But their minds were already gone. Another tech called over. Visuals coming through now, from a melted security node near the plaza. They crowded around the display. Shaky footage. Distorted. Then, a blur. Something skittered between 2 buildings. Metallic glint. Multi-legged. Inhuman speed. The tech froze the frame. Montgomery leaned in. Nitpick, he muttered. The technician hesitated. Sir? I know who did this, Montgomery said. Behind him, the winds carried only silence. No survivors. No movement. Just the remains of 3 million lives, erased in 7 minutes. He stood in it and memorized it. Then he turned away. Back to the U.E.V. Kraken. Back to war. The interior of the U.E.V. Kraken was silent as a mausoleum. Montgomery didn't speak as he removed his armored coat, handed it to one of his aides, and stepped into the sealed comms chamber. The walls were smooth alloy, soundproof, shielded, scrubbed by AI every 90 seconds for intrusion signatures. In Montgomery's line of work, paranoia and survival had become difficult to tell apart. He keyed in a triple encrypted code, retinal and voice locked. The chamber lights dimmed. A beam of compressed light flickered, and a moment later, the hologram of High Counselor Lorea stabilized into view. She looked exactly as she always had, half of her hair bound in ceremonial braids, the other half left loose as a show of power and age. Her skin was wrinkled but unsoftened, like parchment hardened by fire. Her eyes were old and very, very awake. "General Montgomery," she said, "I expected your written report." "You'll want the visuals," he replied. The Kraken uploaded everything: autopsy logs, thermal damage overlays, still burning crater maps, biological residue scans, and finally, the footage. Slowed, stabilized, enhanced. The nitpick, or what used to be one. The creature blurred across the screen, sleeker, smaller, chitin darker, sharper. Still biomech, but altered, like it had evolved around a specific weakness. It skittered between two buildings in less than half a second, and then the feed cut to black. When the files ended, Lorea didn't speak. Not at first. She leaned forward slightly, examining the still image on the final frame. "This wasn't random," the Kraken said. "It wasn't even an act of war. This was a field test." She tapped her fingers against the side of her chair. "Almighty Krakor sits on this council," she said. "Whatever else he may be, he is not a fool. He would never risk his position by using nitpicks against a fellow council member's colony in a way that could be traced back to him." Montgomery's voice was flat. "I believe he either lost control of something or gave control to someone worse." Silence again, but only for a moment. Then Lorea looked up, not at him, but just past him. "You're mistaken, Counselor Montgomery." The Kraken's eyes narrowed. Lorea lifted her chin slightly. "Because Counselor Krakor is here, in this building. He arrived earlier today requesting an emergency session." She paused. "And he just informed the council that one of his worlds was infiltrated. Sensitive genetic data was stolen. His labs were compromised." Montgomery's jaw tightened. Stolen by who? A flicker of something passed behind her eyes. Amusement or disdain. It was hard to say. "According to All Might Krakor, the crazy bastards did." Montgomery stared. "The pirates?" "Yes." She gave a tired sigh. "He claims they've been operating without oversight, that they invaded one of his restricted planets, accessed bioweapon vaults, and stole pre-production samples of his nitpick strain. He's lying. He claims he has no responsibility for what's happened, and that if someone, anyone, used stolen Krakor DNA without understanding its design." She met Montgomery's gaze directly. "Then he cannot be held accountable for their stupidity." Montgomery didn't blink. Of course, Almighty Krakor had gotten there first. Of course he was playing innocent, crying theft instead of admitting escalation. He was rewriting the timeline, and if the council bought it. The Kraken ended the transmission without another word. He turned on his heel, stormed out of the comms chamber, and opened a priority channel. "Dante," he said, his voice low, controlled, ice hard. "Be there in 2 days." A pause. "We need to talk." Neutral zone, rim system. Pirate stronghold, Nemenor Prime. 3 days after the colony, 8723 massacre. The war began at sunrise, or what passed for sunrise on a world choked in ash. The pirate planet of Nemenor Prime, once a smuggler's paradise of sulfur winds and buried vault cities, woke to the sight of the U.E.V. Kraken descending from orbit. It didn't announce itself. It didn't negotiate. It cast a shadow wide enough to cover a continent, then opened fire. The atmosphere split open as ion cannons carved through the sky. Massive beams of calibrated plasma sliced across pirate defense lines. Missile pods bloomed in synchronized bursts, each one loaded with precision warheads designed to obliterate fortifications without collateral overreach. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to send a message. On the bridge of the U.E.V. Kraken, General Edward Montgomery, also known as the Kraken, stood at the center of the command platform, his coat off, sleeves rolled up, jaw clenched like a steel lock. His ship was in full war mode. Torpedoes launched in rippling formation. Plasma arcs tore open hulls. Pirate flanks collapsed in seconds. Their firepower was disorganized. Their reaction times fractured. They'd expected a raid. They got a purge. "Status?" he snapped. "Shields holding. Target grid locked." "Surface resistance at 37% and falling," came the reply from his tactical officer. "They're scrambling fighters, disorganized." Shakira's voice buzzed in his neural comm implant. "Target Alpha trying to break formation. Engines charging. If you want him, now's the window." "Send him," Montgomery said. Below deck, a stealth drop pod launched. Inside, Dante Stryx. Ground. Sector Vierzel. Pirate Undercity. The insertion was fast, violent, just the way Dante liked it. He hit the ground in a retro-shielded stealth pod dropped from high orbit under the cover of the barrage. The pod punched through layers of crumbling terrain and skidded to a halt 2 meters outside the target zone. Shakira's voice piped into his neural interface. "Welcome to the armpit of hell. Temperature, 42 degrees Celsius. Oxygen density, breathable if you enjoy dying slowly." Dante cracked his neck. "So a warm welcome." "Got it." He stepped into the chaos. Nemenor Prime's Undercity was in flames. The pirates, or what remained of them, were trying to regroup, but their systems were jammed, their surveillance blinded, and their leader was pinned in a bunker beneath the central vault. Varghast, one of the original founders of the Crazy Bastards, smuggler, cannibal, strategist, ghost, and now target. Dante moved like smoke, blending into the craters, slipping past broken barricades. He wore chameleon armor designed to bend around infrared and light curves. No signature, no presence. He was the knife in the dark. Shakira whispered, "Vault access in 3 meters. Triple biolock. Want me to flirt with their security?" No time. He knelt, pulled a small cylinder from his belt. Gravedigger tech. With a snap, it expanded into a neural tap. A hard interface spike jabbed into the access panel, lighting up with static blue. "Override in process," Shakira reported. Dante watched the readout climb. 67%, 81%, 94%. The door hissed open. Vault chamber, pirate stronghold, level Z. The stench hit first. Sweat, rot, oil. Then the sound, mechanical breathing, and the occasional wheeze of pain. Varghast was there, sprawled on a throne of scrap metal and bones. His right arm was a prosthetic, bolted on crooked. His skin peeled in places, radiation burns likely untreated. His eyes were red, not with rage, but with the slowness of too many years burned by the wrong choices. He looked up lazily. "You're not one of mine." Dante stepped forward. "Nope, but I am taking you in." Varghast laughed, coughed. "You think I haven't survived worse? Almighty Krakor sent you?" Dante paused. Wrong guess. Then he fired a bolt directly into Varghast's prosthetic shoulder. The pirate screamed. "Didn't say you had a choice." Dante dragged Varghast to his feet, The old pirate spat blood. You really think I'll talk? No, Dante said. I think you already did. U.E.V. Kraken, Detention Cell 03. The ship was already back in high orbit. Vargast was strapped to a containment chair, intravenous truth agents running through his system. The Kraken stood across the room, silent. The pirate's breathing slowed. His eyes twitched. Why did you hit 8723? The Kraken asked, voice cold. Vargast laughed. We didn't? You expect me to believe that? We were told it was a Krakor vault. We figured it was a weapons dump. Old Krakor trash. No one said 3 million civvies were living there. You didn't scan it? We didn't know there were people there, all right. Probably heat-masked zone. Cloaked. We did a quick scan. The whole planet read as dead. And the nitpicks? You didn't deploy the nitpicks. No, he shouted. We didn't release anything. Those things were already there. Moving, small, fast. We thought they were Krakor's security measures. We got down there and saw it. People melting from the inside out. Screaming. We ran. Montgomery's jaw tensed. You were set up. Vargast nodded. We weren't supposed to survive the deployment either, were we? Silence. Who sent you? The Kraken asked. Vargast's eyes locked on his. Almighty Krakor. Directly. Sent the data. Said it was a target left over from the wars. Montgomery nodded and stepped out of the chamber. U.E.V. Kraken. Command deck. Secure channel. The Kraken didn't hesitate. He connected directly to the High Counselor's emergency line. Lorea's image appeared, weary and sharp as ever. Counselor Montgomery, she began. I assume the war crimes report will be arriving soon? I'm not sending a report, Kraken said. I'm sending a warning. He uploaded the full transcript of the interrogation, the confession, the raw, unfiltered footage of nitpicks skittering through burning homes and human screams echoing in static. This was Krakor's doing. He planned it, armed it, then blamed it on the pirate factions he knew wouldn't survive long enough to speak. Lorea's face went pale. But, he said, the Kraken cut her off. I don't care what he said. You have the truth now. He ended the call. Then he opened another channel. Dante, meet me in 2 days. Bring Vone. A pause. We end this. U.E.V. Kraken. Secure Bay Theta. 2 days after Nemenor Prime. The doors hissed open. General Montgomery, the Kraken, stepped into the lab with his usual measured gait, but his eyes were already scanning the scene ahead. Dante stood off to the side, arms crossed, looking equal parts impressed and concerned. Shakira's interface hovered nearby, pulsing with low light. And at the center of it all, Dr. Lyra Vone. Hair tangled like she'd been caught in a wind tunnel, lab coat stained with protein gel, dust, and what looked suspiciously like alien blood. Her eyes were wide, pupils dilated, her skin pale, dry, and she was talking. We recalibrated the synthesis through indirect polymerase extension, not the traditional route, obviously, and achieved full cellular uptake in less than 3 minutes, though admittedly that was in vitro. Montgomery raised a brow. Is she okay? She hasn't slept in 48 hours, Dante said flatly. I'm not even sure she's blinked. Shakira added, she needs a haircut, a shower, and probably a sedative, in that order. Immediately. Dr. Lyra Vone didn't seem to hear any of it. She spun a hologram into the air, a 3D rendering of a nitpick swarm, jagged and wicked, surrounded by strands of modified Krakor genetic markers. The species, not the warlord, she added. This is the new sequence, fully mapped. We based it on Vrelk's deconstruction of the original swarm, but I isolated the structural vulnerabilities in the Krakor genome. These nitpicks don't attack the nervous system like before. They attack the regenerative core. That part that heals? It gets reversed. She pointed to a highlighted region. This turns their cellular memory against itself, like giving a virus a map of your immune system and saying, "Please destroy me in alphabetical order." Montgomery squinted at her. "Glad you're back to life," he said, glancing at Vrelk. "Mind translating that?" Vrelk, still thin and moving with a limp, stood tall beside her. His voice was low, flat, but perfectly clear. "She made new nitpicks. They kill Krakors." Dante let out a single laugh. "Thank you." Montgomery's attention snapped fully to Vrelk. "You're stable?" "Not fully," Vrelk said, "but functional." Shakira scanned him. He's telling the truth. Biometrics are clean. Cell damage down 78% from when we pulled him out. His tissues are still adapting, but the deterioration curve has reversed. Vrelk nodded slightly. "She restored function. Your species preserved mine." Montgomery stepped closer, searching the alien's face. "And now? My work now belongs to your cause." No emotion, no hesitation, no sense of debt, just a new programming, a shift in purpose. Montgomery understood the weight of that. He looked between them, the brilliant, disheveled, half-mad scientist and the quiet biomech engineer from a race bred to serve. Together, they'd built a weapon. Montgomery crossed to the holotable. "Let's talk logistics. You said you have a location?" "Yes," Vrelk said. "Krakor's planetary residence, hidden beneath the ice crust of Gorax 9. Vaulted infrastructure, shielded emissions, seismic silent, but not invisible." He pointed to a deep, dark region on the map, a tectonic fold the size of a continent. "That's where the primary research core is hidden, also where the central brood chamber is. You destroy that, and you destroy the line." "The nitpicks are bred there?" Dante asked. Vrelk nodded. "All of them." Montgomery folded his arms. "All right. Then we end it at the source." He turned to the others, but Vrelk spoke, voice low. "There are many slaves on Krakor's world. My people. Other races?" He hesitated. "What about them?" Montgomery met his eyes. Calm, certain. "That was the plan." A beat. "We take the labs, burn the throne, and get them out." He pointed at Dante and Vone. "You two go with Vrelk. Shakira, support their drop. Get them in. Free the captives. Deploy the new nitpicks. When you're clear." He turned to the viewport, his face hardening like steel. "I'll erase that planet from existence." Then, almost as an afterthought, but not really, he added, "Shakira, sedate Dr. Vone if you have to. She needs at least one nap before going to war." Shakira didn't miss a beat. "Already loading tranquilizer options, Commander. Lemon scented." Silence fell. Then Dante grinned. "About time we finished what we started." 10 hours later, Gorax 9 system. The Gravedigger 2. With Shakira woven into its systems like a digital ghost, dropped from orbit like a shadow. Stealth systems online. Heat dampeners calibrated. The ship drifted over the ice shelf in near-perfect silence. Inside, Dr. Vone checked her instruments obsessively. Vrelk, seated across from her, worked in tandem. No words, just perfect mutual understanding. They moved like twin minds, grafted together by pure research momentum. "I calibrated the dispersal nozzle," she murmured. "Adjust the protein mesh or it will clog," Vrelk said. "I already did." "You missed position 3. Vone blinked. "I did miss position 3. Dante watched from the hatchway, arms crossed. "You two realize this is terrifying, right?" No answer. He smirked. "Figures." Shakira chimed in. 20 meters to insertion point. 1 minute to breach. Copy, Dante said. Everyone prepped? Prepped, Vone whispered, adjusting a needle array. Vrelk closed his eyes. Ready. Ground team deployment. Ice Vault Complex. The breach was silent. Dante dropped first, landing in crouch just beyond the containment grid. Vone followed, carefully protecting her dispersal kit. Vrelk landed last. Slower, more cautious, but steady. Inside the ice vaults, the world was pale green. Frozen corridors lined with cryo chambers, worker drones moving in hypnotic loops. Vrelk moved first. This way, he said. Dante kept his weapon ready, leading them deeper into the compound. They found the first group of captives, dozens of species, slaved to biological loops, spliced into machines, kept alive for labor and data testing. Vone gasped. They're being used like test mice. They are, Vrelk confirmed, but they can still be healed. They began unlocking the chambers. One by one, lives were pulled back from the brink. Then, the breach alarm sounded. Shakira's voice rang in Dante's comm. They know you're inside. Evac timer starts now. How long? 7 minutes. Orbit of Gorax 9. In orbit, Montgomery's fleet hung invisible above Gorax 9's polar shelf, every vessel cloaked in full-spectrum dampeners and running dark. The U.E.V. Kraken drifted at its center like a spider in the heart of a web. No comms, no pings, not even a shadow on the enemy's sensors. Inside the command bridge, Montgomery watched the glacial terrain below stretch like a scar. Somewhere beneath it, Dante, Vone, Vrelk, and Shakira were liberating slaves from the vaults of the Krakor war machine. Status? He asked. Extraction in progress, came the reply. 36 captives on board. They're moving fast. Then came the warning. They've spotted the exfil, his tactical officer snapped. Atmospheric sensors just spiked. Defense grid is powering up. Auto response pattern initiated. Drop cloak. Full power. Show them who we are. With a sound like thunder turning inside out, the U.E.V. Kraken unveiled itself. On Gorax 9, inside his private sanctum carved from obsidian and arrogance, the almighty Krakor's clawed hand twitched. A proximity drone floated near him, then blinked red. Alert. Atmospheric breach. Multiple unregistered vessels detected in high orbit. Primary signal. Non-Krakor retrieval class craft. Coordinates. Polar sector. The almighty. Krakor hissed. He slammed his fist into the command pillar. Activate grid. Scramble all hunters. Burn them out of the sky. Alarms echoed through the fortress like metal screams. Gunports slid open across the planetary crust. Anti-air batteries came online with a deep, guttural hum, the kind that shook bones. Missiles armed. Gatling spires unfolded like mechanical arachnids. Up in orbit, Montgomery heard it all, and made his call. From the bridge, Montgomery locked eyes on the first Krakor patrol frigate, just cresting the ionosphere, its plasma cannons already priming. Target that one, he ordered. Confirmed. Designation. Talon-class hunter. Remove it. The U.E.V. Kraken's forward railguns barked once, and the Talon-class patrol frigate disintegrated mid-burn, its shield unable to hold for even half a second. Missiles streaked past the bridge viewports as the first wave of Krakor interceptors closed in. The U.E.V. Kraken spun on its axis and fired a blistering salvo from its dorsal ion bank, melting one attacker in a clean arc of blue fire. Meanwhile, the gravedigger, tucked low and silent beneath the ice shelf, slipped away unnoticed. Its stealth systems, still active, rode the gap in the defense grid now aimed fully upward. Inside the launch bay, Shakira's voice crackled. "All captives aboard. We're out." Montgomery never looked away from the viewport. "Good. Now, fire everything." Montgomery's voice dropped to something darker. "Release the new swarm. Let the Krakors learn what evolution feels like. In reverse." The floor trembled under Almighty Krakor's feet. He turned to the central display, the planetary defense grid map already glowing with red alerts. Fortress barrage systems engaging, outer perimeter collapsing under concentrated strike from human vessel. Losses, 31%. Escalating. "Human vessel?" Krakor snarled. And unknown biomech infestation detected. Strain origin. Human lab synthesis. Lethal to Krakor tissue. The almighty Krakor's claws clenched. His eyes flared. "What did you say?" The drone hesitated, then displayed a feed. Nitpicks, but not his. Mutated. Repurposed. Designed to kill his kind. Then the drone showed another visual. A warship, matte black, armed like a floating arsenal, hull lined with U.E.V insignias, carving through his fleet with unmatched precision. "The Kraken," Almighty Krakor growled. Another explosion rocked the mountain. One of his vaults. Gone. He slammed his claws into the control interface, opening direct neural command override. "Launch the hive swarm. Every ship. All of them." Outside, the sky over Gorax 9 lit up with madness. Swarms of Krakor vessels, sleek, segmented, and vicious, launched in coordinated waves. Montgomery's fleet responded with equal fury. Countermeasures, ECM pulses, and counter-barrage routines layered over live fire. Beams ripped across the sky like divine judgment. Plasma storms flared. Hulls screamed and fractured. Fire blossomed across orbit. Below, Gorax 9 burned. The U.E.V locked onto its final target. Montgomery's eyes were dark steel. Polar shelf, brood chamber. Fire the antimatter torpedo. His weapons officer didn't ask twice. The torpedo launched, silent, silver, and slow at first. Then, contact. The atmosphere ignited. The polar shelf cracked like glass. The vaults collapsed, one by one, detonating in a chain reaction of entropy and fire. With them, the Krakor's legacy. Ash, smoke, silence, but not the warlord. A single ship, deep black and shaped like a blade, blasted from the far side of the planet, disappearing into deep void space. 3 days later, General Montgomery, you are requested to appear before the Council. Lorea's voice echoed through the secure channel, clear and cold. Montgomery sat alone in his war room aboard the U.E.V Kraken. The tactical readouts had dimmed, the engines quieted to a low hum, yet his eyes remained cold, untouched by the stillness. "For what charge?" he asked. "Not a charge," Lorea replied, "but your retaliation cannot go unanswered." Montgomery leaned back in his chair, hands steepled beneath his chin. "I'll be there." And he did. He went alone. No honor guard, no fleet, no escort of drones or digital heralds, just the Kraken himself, walking the obsidian halls of the Galactic Council in absolute silence. And when he stood before the gathered leaders, those polished politicians, and slow-speaking bureaucrats, he didn't plead. He didn't justify. He simply told the truth. "Earth doesn't regret it," he said, his voice steady and sharp. "And we no longer wish to be part of this council. So your banishment means nothing." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Lorea's brow furrowed, but she said nothing. Montgomery's tone never shifted. "You all allowed Krakor to rise. You looked away while he enslaved entire species. We didn't. We burned him out of existence. So if that breaks your rules, he shrugged, then your rules were broken to begin with. He turned his back on them and walked out. That was how Earth left the Galactic Council. By choice, not shame. By the time Montgomery returned to his war room, the preparations were already underway. Key human settlements had been cloaked under full-spectrum distortion fields, untraceable, undetectable. Other colonies had begun the long journey toward deep space relocation. Their destination, an uncharted dark region beyond the galaxy, a stretch of space warped by a black hole cluster, where gravitational anomalies shredded most tracking arrays. Inaccessible. Perfect. It was exile, but not punishment. It was strategy. Aboard the Kraken, Vrelk stood in the ship's biolab, flanked by members of his now liberated species. No longer bound by shackles or command codes, they moved with cautious freedom. And yet, their posture remained deferential, curious, obedient. Montgomery entered quietly. Vrelk turned to face him. "My people are not designed for self-governance," he said plainly. "We were built to serve, not just the Krakor, anyone. We adapt to power, to protect it, to enable it." He placed one hand over his chest, an unfamiliar gesture, but one he had learned from the humans. "You freed us. You preserved my life. You gave us purpose when we had none. So now, we offer what is in our nature." Montgomery gave a small nod. "You don't owe us anything." "We don't operate on debt," Vrelk replied. "Only function." Outside the viewport, the stars shifted. Human fleets were realigning, one system at a time, into the shadows. New laws, new sky, new future. In the Kraken's medical bay, Dr. Vone adjusted a series of injection protocols on a new strain of regenerative bacteria. She looked pale but focused, her hair finally trimmed, her coat clean, but her eyes still burned with the same relentless intensity. Dante stood beside her, arms crossed. "You've been quiet. What's cooking in that skull of yours?" She didn't even look at him. "I've resequenced the regenerative loops, stabilized the telomerase chains. You don't understand what that means yet." Dante smirked. "Try me." She finally looked up. "It means human longevity is no longer theoretical. I can extend the natural lifespan, not by years, by centuries." Dante blinked. "Define centuries." "1," she said. "To start." She tapped a command into the console. The screen glowed. "Attention, humanity," she said softly. "Your lifespan has been increased to 1,000 years." "What?" Dante and Shakira blurted at once. While humanity was dealing with exile and the good news of increase in their lifespan on a forgotten pirate moon, Varghast, the last warlord of the crazy bastards, sat in a rented bar, drinking recycled alcohol through a cracked straw. No cuffs. No prison. He was alive because the Kraken let him walk. "You're lucky," Montgomery had told him, back in that cold detention cell. "You gave me the truth when I needed it." Varghast had chuckled. That was survival, not honesty. Montgomery had smiled, just slightly. Same thing some days. Varghast heard the news that Earth was gone. But he knew better. Humanity wasn't broken, wasn't lost. They had chosen exile over obedience, silence over compromise, shadows over chains. And as the stars swallowed the last of their fleeing vessels, one truth burned brighter than any war. You don't banish the Kraken. You awaken it. and it never goes back to sleep.
Hey there, space human. I'm really curious about your thoughts on this video. Drop a quick comment and let me know what's on your mind. Or just say hi if you prefer. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Also, remember to check the pinned comment. Trust me, it's worth a look. Oh, and one last thing. I've chosen another video for you to watch. Just click the card here, or here if you want the whole playlist. See you there.